Welcome back to Viral on Connect TV. Today, we are covering a heartbreaking story involving former NFL star Chris Johnson, who has reportedly been diagnosed with ALS. We'll also remember NFL legend Steve Mongo McMichael, whose courageous fight with the same disease touched millions before his recent passing. Let's get into it. First thing first, join in the conversation using the hashtag Viral here on Connect. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is caring. Tell a friend. Call a friend. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Alright, let's get to it. Chris Johnson made a name for himself as one of the NFL's most explosive playmakers, using his incredible speed and athleticism throughout his career. Now reports say Johnson has been diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. ALS attacks the nerve cells that control voluntary muscles, gradually affecting movement, speech, swallowing, and breathing. The news of the diagnosis had led to an outpouring of support from football fans, former teammates, and players throughout the league. Chris Johnson recently appeared on Good Morning America. Let's look at that story right here, right now.
Johnson, touchdown!
Chris Johnson, one of the fastest running backs in NFL history, shattered records throughout his career.
80-yard run.
So fast, he earned the nickname CJ2K.
Chris Johnson is going to have a Titans touchdown.
He retired in 2017 and has been out of the spotlight. But today, he is sharing something deeply personal.
You've chosen to share some personal news today, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to share it. What would you like for people to know?
First, I want people to know that I'm still me. ALS has changed what my body can do, but it hasn't changed who I am.
In 2025, at the age of 39, Johnson was diagnosed with ALS, the disease progressing so rapidly that he now uses his eyes to trigger a speech-generating device to speak.
Why do you want to share this now?
Because if sharing my story helps even one person get diagnosed sooner, inspires more research, or gives another family hope, then it's worth it.
Johnson says he was in the prime of his life, working out daily and running errands with his 4 children until ALS changed everything.
Let's go back to last year. When did you notice that something was off?
I first noticed weakness in my right hand. At first, it was little things like my grip didn't feel right, and I wasn't as strong as I've always been.
His wife, Brittany, thought it was something much simpler.
Brittany, what did you think it was at the time?
I thought because of football and, his career, that it had to be something with that, maybe a pinched nerve or something along those lines, but never ALS.
And what did doctors tell you initially about your condition?
We hoped it was something else, but after thorough testing, they finally came down with a diagnosis of ALS. They told us about a medication that might extend life by a few months. Then they told us to get our affairs in order. It was hard hearing that, but after watching Good Morning America and seeing Dr. Merritt with Eric Dane, we reached out to her. She was willing to think more creatively, offering experimental treatments that might help and advance research.
Dr. Merritt Sikovich is a neurologist and leading ALS researcher at Mass General Brigham Neuroscience Institute.
Chris has been on standard of care, which is about 3 different medications that slow down the illness, but he was also part of a clinical trial, a therapy that decreases inflammation, and I think that helped him a lot.
With no family history of ALS, doctors believe his is a case of sporadic ALS, the most common form of the disease, affecting about 90% of patients, occurring randomly in people with no known family history of ALS.
That's one of the reasons this disease can be so shocking. It can happen to someone who never expected it.
And for me, it's shocking. It's hard to process it for me, because I know you, Chris, from just the incredible athlete that you are. How do you process it?
Honestly, I don't know if you ever fully process it. At first, you're in shock. Then you realize you have 2 choices. You can give up or you can fight. I chose to fight.
And Brittany, what was it like for you when you found out that Chris had ALS?
All I could think about was our kids and how young they are. Just you're in denial. You want it to be anything else. You want the doctors to be wrong. The life that we previously had is like now a thing of the past, but we're still hopeful. We're hopeful, you know, that a breakthrough will happen and that, or, you know, God, a miracle will happen, you know.
And what kind of support has helped you the most through this?
Without a doubt, my wife, Brittany, she hasn't left my side through any of this. My kids are also a huge part of why I keep going. Every day I wake up wanting more time with them to make more memories and just be their dad. They give me a reason to keep fighting.
Love it.
I know, Brittany, the unsung heroes are the caregivers. So what has this been like for you?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. Like, we have good days, we have bad days, you know. Our life has shifted so much and it's a heavy workload, but I have no doubt that this is what, you know, I was called to do.
So how has it progressed since you've been diagnosed?
It's continued to progress much faster than I ever imagined. I want people to understand just how quickly ALS can attack your body. Just over a year ago, I was picking up my 7-year-old daughter so she make a wish with her birthday cake. Today, I couldn't do that.
And what do you hope people, or you wish people understood about living with ALS?
That your mind stays sharp. People sometimes look at the physical disability and assume you're not still the same person inside. I still think the same, I still dream, I still love my family. My body just doesn't cooperate.
What are the doctors telling you about the treatment and the progression?
Having doctors who are willing to collaborate and explore every reasonable option has meant a lot to my family and me. Right now there isn't a cure, but we're seeing more research, more clinical trials, and more promising ideas than ever before. Seeing how hard these doctors and researchers are working gives me hope. As long as they're fighting for people with ALS, I'm going to keep fighting too.
You know, yeah, and I want to thank Chris and Brittany for inviting me to the home with their family for that interview. And soon after Chris was diagnosed, they recorded his voice, which is why the speech-generating machine sounds exactly like him. And Chris also told me awareness is great, but it's not enough. ALS needs funding. He was diagnosed relatively early and is doing everything he can, but still can't even hold a cup. That's why early detection, more research, and better treatments are so important. But he said if you're newly diagnosed, don't lose hope. Research is moving faster than ever.
What an incredible spirit.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, but it was definitely, like I said, hard for me to process watching this guy who I've admired for a long time, an incredible record-holding NFL running back.
But he still has that grit, doesn't he?
And as you said, his mind is still sharp.
Yeah.
Mind is still sharp.
And still admire. You said you admired him still. I mean, his admiration right now is off the charts for what he's doing. Yeah. That was a great interview.
It really was.
All right, you saw that story about Chris Johnson recently having ALS. Like I said, he was known for his speed, his athleticism, played for the Tennessee Titans, and was a good wide receiver and stuff. Now, let's fast forward to what's going on and stuff right now. Now, let's hear what Bob Evans has to say. Bob, can you take it away? Can you give us more in depth about Chris Johnson and what's going on from your viewpoint?
Former NFL star Chris Johnson has reportedly been diagnosed with ALS, sending shockwaves through the football community. The disease, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, affects the nerve cells responsible for muscle movement. The news also brings back memories of NFL legend Steve Mongo McMichael, who inspired millions during his courageous battle with ALS before his recent passing. Fans across the sports world are now rallying around Johnson with messages of hope and support. Here at Viral, we send our thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by this devastating disease.
Thanks, Bob, for your point of view on that Chris Johnson situation on ALS. That's a heartbreaking disease to know. But Chris Johnson wasn't the only NFL star that was recently had ALS. We know that Johnson reportedly diagnosed also remind many fans of Steve Mongo McMichael, the former Chicago Bears star, later professional wrestler, publicly battled ALS for years despite the disease progression. He remains an inspiration to countless people through his courage, and his determination. His recent passing was mourned through both football and professional wrestling. His legacy continues to shine light on the importance of ALS research and awareness. Like I said, fans across social media have expressed sadness and support. Let's hear what you people have to say on what the people say.
In honor of CJ2K, can we all just remember how legendary his 2009 season was with Tennessee? Because in that year alone, he's the only running back ever to have 2,500 yards in a season. I mean, just think about all the other legendary running backs on this list. None of them have done it once. And for anyone that doesn't know, Chris Johnson came out publicly and said that he's been battling ALS throughout the past year, which sucks. Because when you think about it, just 1 year ago, CJ was at the Senior Bowl helping other rookie running backs, and he looks healthy there. But let's not forget, his time in the league was legendary, one of the fastest players in NFL history for a while. And while he was on the field, he could literally do everything. You needed a goal line back, that's fine. You need him to be a thumper and run 50 yards, he could do that shit too. During that 2009 season, he finished with 16 total touchdowns, first team All-Pro, and Offensive Player of the Year. And even though CJ2K can't even walk anymore, there was legitimately a point in his career where I thought he could fly.
This interview broke my heart into a lot of different pieces. I grew up watching CJ, one of the greatest 2 to 3 year stretches in NFL history. And while we can still all hurt for CJ, I think it is important, imperative even, that we attach the burden of responsibility to a league who purposely and negligently does not care about its player safety. The NFL has had a long-standing battle of purposeful disregard for player safety while also maintaining its racist core. Just a few years ago, they finally stopped doing race-based cognitive testing, which led them to issue out statements that black players simply weren't as smart as white players. ALS has a direct link to the contact sport of football. Chris Johnson's family was not made aware of this, which could have led to him being tested way earlier than he actually was, and earlier tests per results can be literally life-changing and helping stop the disease spread. So if they would have had a chance to learn about this earlier in the direct link between his football career and the progression of ALS, then it's highly plausible that he would not be in this predicament as we speak. The NFL generates billions of dollars, and it's no sense why the league has literally not a singular care in the world about player safety. And not to mention the racist core practices that happen here at these facilities, they're still high in numbers, and the cognitive testing function is only one of many crazy practices that they do in making differences between black and white players. So prayers is going out for Chris Johnson. My heart breaks for his family, but the NFL needs to be held liable for situations like these.
If I'm being honest, today's one of those days that's probably going to stick with me for a bit. It's something where when I saw Chris Johnson on Good Morning America, my heart sank, my words didn't work. It took my breath away. I had a feeling that Monday morning's interview with Michael Strahan was going to be for his ALS diagnosis, based on what happened over the weekend with some internet rumors that Chris Johnson, former Titans great running back, one of the fastest guys, the fastest guy in his era, was going to be diagnosed with ALS, a disease that cruelly is going to rob him, take him of his physical abilities that made him a superhuman for the Titans for 6 seasons in the NFL, and maybe one of the most exciting players to watch in NFL history. And to see him already like that is an image that I just haven't been able to process completely. And it's really heartbreaking. Weirdly enough, I covered the Titans for the first time in 2013. That's when Tim Shaw got cut. That was Chris Johnson's last season with the Titans before he moved on. Tim Shaw gets cut at the end of that camp, retires, finds out less than a year later that he has ALS. And I was around to see Tim Shaw from afar, from a distance, not close by any means, but watch Tim Shaw go through this to where I saw an interview, I rewatched it Sunday before the Chris Johnson interview came live. Tim Shaw, 5 years into his diagnosis, was still speaking and using his voice very slurred, was having trouble getting around, and Tim's as strong as they get. Now, he was 34 5 years in, and Chris is now 40, about to turn 41, a little over a year in, and I was not expecting what I saw from Chris Johnson, and to hear his voice and to see him like that just really has struggled to land. and I'm sure I'm not alone.
Man, look, I don't know where to start, but let's talk about it. Chris Johnson, a.k.a. CJ2K, was diagnosed with ALS. He went on Good Morning America to let everybody know that he is dealing with ALS. And we've seen ALS take out a lot of people. You know, we've seen it. During this interview, he's speaking through an electronic device. And, it's heartbreaking, bro. Like, it's to watch him sit there. It was just tough. It was just tough. You can watch the full interview on Good Morning America. It was just tough, man. And CJ2K was one of them special guys. To watch him play, every time he touched the ball, you knew he might break a big one. And the fact that, he's dealing with this, I know it's life, but it's tough, man. It fucking sucks. Prayers to his family and everything, but dog, man, it's just heartbreaking, yo. CJ2K was just one of the ones, man. He really was one of them ones.
An incredibly difficult but necessary video to make. NFL superstar running back Chris Johnson, diagnosed with ALS at just 39 years of age. Who is Chris Johnson? He was the fastest man in the NFL, held the record at the 40-yard dash for 18 years. Who is Chris Johnson? Most rushing yards from scrimmage in NFL history with over 2,500. An absolute physical specimen until ALS has completely gutted his body. He said his mind is still sharp, but ALS has taken over his body. Awareness is not enough, Chris Johnson has said. He said ALS needs more funding for more research. The intention of this video, to not just send you, Chris Johnson, love, but also, if y'all know anybody who's struggling with ALS, I'm sending you all love as well. This is a unimaginable disease. And so sending you love, Chris Johnson, those that are struggling, and remember, don't give up. Don't lose hope. And it's not just about awareness. It's also about advocacy, and it's also about funding for research. So much love, CJ2K. So much love.
Imagine being 39 years old. You're a former athlete. You have 4 kids and a wife, 4 small kids at that. And your life is suddenly changed overnight. I'm watching the Good Morning America story with Chris Johnson, who was one of my favorite running backs growing up. I'm a Titans fan, so I'm a big Chris Johnson, CJ2K guy, and it's just heartbreaking. And with ALS, a lot of times it's sporadic, meaning that it can happen to individuals who have no family history of it. And this was the case with Chris Johnson. I'm still gathering my thoughts. I don't know what to say. I'm in a state of shock, and I'm thinking about Chris. I'm thinking about his wife and his small kids. You just gotta be grateful for life. You just never know what can happen. And when your health is compromised, you start to think about the times when you had your health, and we realize that we take a lot of things for granted, and life is just unfair. Life is just unfair. I don't know why these things happen. I don't know, but it's so heartbreaking, and I think Chris Johnson is so brave for sharing his story. I saw a statement from the owner of the Titans, Amy Adams-Strunk, and she said that the organization will be behind him. We have another guy who played linebacker for us, Tim Shaw, who also was diagnosed with ALS, and the organization has done a beautiful job of rallying behind Tim Shaw, and I know I have to do the same for Chris Johnson. But man, when I saw the news that Chris Johnson was going to be on Good Morning America to share some deeply personal news yesterday, I was doing a deep dive on Reddit, and I saw people talking about the fact that it could be ALS or some health condition. And this is just so awful. So my thoughts and prayers are with the Johnson family and anybody who's been affected by ALS and their families. I'm thinking about you today. So just some food for thought. That's all I have.
Everybody pray for Chris Johnson because he got one of the worst illnesses. So recently, ex-NFL star revealed to the world that he have ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, which is 100% fatal. Roughly half the people diagnosed with this pass away within 2 to 3 years. Because with this, everything in the body shut down, so eventually he not even going to be able to breathe on his own. Stephen Hawkins is the longest living ALS patient. He was diagnosed at 21, survived with it for 55 years before passing away at the age of 76. Now, anyone could get ALS, but it's most common in older people. But Chris Johnson was still young. He got diagnosed at 39, and at this current moment he's 40 years old. But unfortunately it has been progression fast because at this moment he needed a computer to speak. At first him and his wife thought it wasn't anything major because the symptoms started off subtle.
I first noticed weakness in my right hand. At first it was little things like my grip didn't feel right, and I wasn't as strong as I've always been.
But Chris Johnson is getting specialized treatment to try to slow down the symptoms. The people that helped Eric Dane with his ALS is the same ones helping CJ. And I really hope they find a cure for this because my uncle was recently diagnosed with ALS as well.
You know, church, ALS has to be one of the most cruel diseases out here. To be 100% cognitively aware that you're trapped inside a body that's actively betraying you has to be the stuff that nightmares are made of. Now, for all of y'all that had lives and couldn't keep up, former NFL star Chris Johnson has revealed his ALS diagnosis. Now, Chris, who's now 40, was diagnosed just last year at 39, and what started as weakness in one of his hands has progressed to him needing a caretaker and also being unable to speak and only able to communicate with the assistance of a computer that tracks his eye movement. Now, Chris's ALS is called sporadic ALS, which is ALS of no known cause, family history, or origin, okay? And apparently it occurs in roughly 90% of ALS cases. Now, that's the most scary part to me, because anybody who knows me knows how much I love the doctor, and I'm there even when I don't have to be. So the fact that I can't go down there and, you know, screen for this, that bothers me a lot. And it has to be such a devastating blow to someone as active as Chris. You know, 10 seasons in the NFL, a wife and 4 kids, mentoring other players, seemingly having your whole life ahead of you, and in the blink of an eye, or a year in this case, everything can change. So my sincere prayers to Chris and his family as they navigate this new normal. And we really need some more money for ALS research because 90% of these cases being of no known cause or origin is absolutely unacceptable. Now y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about this situation, and we'll talk later.
I am absolutely gutted to hear this news about Chris Johnson, aka CJ2K. A lot of you know I'm a longtime Titans hater. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan, right? And so I have a long-time standing rivalry with the Tennessee Titans. But this goes way beyond football, man. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch the Good Morning America interview. Michael Strahan did a story on Chris Johnson. It's such a tough watch, man. I had no idea that he was struggling with that. He just revealed today, really to the world, that he's struggling with ALS. And it's really tough to see, man. So I just wanted to get on here and say I am sending all of my love, all of my thoughts, all of my prayers, vibes to Chris Johnson, his family, the Tennessee Titans fans out there. It's so tough to watch a guy who was an absolute legend of the gridiron, somebody who was at the top of his game, to see him degraded like that to this terrible disease that is ALS. It absolutely breaks my heart. So just hug your family members tight today.
Many sending prayers to Chris Johnson and his family, while also remembering Steve McMichael's incredible strength through his battle with ALS. Others are encouraging donations and support for organizations to work to find better treatments and ultimately a cure. ALS has affected many families, athletes, and communities. Stories like these remind us how precious life is and why continued research and awareness is so important. From everyone here at Connect TV and Viral, we want to send our thoughts and prayers to Chris Johnson, the McMichael family, and everyone who's fighting ALS. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.